On Locked On Rockies, how to talk Rockies over the holiday season.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome in the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 23rd day of November in the year 2022. I am your Rockies fan extraordinaire, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, well, you're in the right spot, because that's what we do here. We talk about the Colorado Rockies each and every single day right here on Locked On Rockies on your favorite streaming service or on YouTube as well. If you subscribe to Locked On Rockies on YouTube, you'll know when we go live, and you can be part of the live chat and have your questions answered live. And we thank you for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. If you want to stay up to date with all things Rockies, you're in the right spot. That's what we do. I'm Paul Holden, your Rockies fan extraordinaire. I've been bringing you your Colorado Rockies, a podcast for a little over 2 seasons now, following this team my entire life. And today on the pod, we are giving you some insight. I don't know, just some talking points, so to speak, for the holiday season. Doing into things in the theme, in the spirit of the holiday season. We'll do that because I feel like a lot of people, you get it on Twitter. I get it in the comments section. You're going to face some questions about Rockies, about the Rockies, about Rockies fandom, about why you choose to spend your time in the summer rooting for the Colorado Rockies. Out of all the options, out of all the teams, out of all the things to do, why do you spend your time and occupy yourselves with the Colorado Rockies? And let's just start with the easy things. As much as it is annoying, as much as it's frustrating from the true baseball fan, it's what we're from. It's what we do. I mean, it's for a lot of us, myself included, it's you grew up going to Coors Field. You grew up with the Rockies. You grew up rooting for this team. And it's this, if it's as simple as that, then it's as simple as that. And that should be really it. But I mean, it's more than that. It's a team that really can be interesting when the Rockies are good. And in the past, when the Rockies have been good, there's just interesting elements to their team. They're doing weird things. The Rockies are always associated, and they're not always great, but they're always associated with weird stats and statistics. And sometimes it's like being shut out multiple times in a row, being one of the worst road performing offenses on the road. But they also play at a place that is guaranteed to make for interesting and entertaining and engaging baseball for half of their season there at Coors Field. On top of that, the Rockies have had a long history of really, really cool players and really, really awesome people that have been part of their teams. And I mean, you can go as far back. I mean, if you want to go, I mean, the Blake Street Bombers, I mean, that's literally one of the coolest nicknames that baseball has ever seen. I know, of course, I'm looking through my purple colored glasses, but I mean, look at them: Dante Bichette, Nefe Perez, Larry Walker, and Andres Galarraga, Juan Uribe. I mean, there's so many people that you can just name off the rip there, and that's not even counting the handful and millions others. And then you go into the Rocktober era. Literally, the Rockies are responsible for such an incredible chunk of a sports story, such an incredible little part of baseball's overall lore. I mean, there are teams that have gone on streaks, but their Rocktober still hasn't been replicated, and the Rockies were one series away from completing one of the greatest sports stories of all time. And that's to mention, not even to put away from the fact that a couple years ago, and maybe coming up here in the next few years, the Rockies have had young, interesting, exciting talent. And now if you look, they're not here, but if you look at Rockies players that have moved on, especially from the infield, they're some of the biggest names in baseball. At least two of them are. I know that Trevor Story hasn't really broken out in the mainstream with his new team, but DJ LeMahieu has been a lot of talks in New York, has even done promotional material for the league. And I don't really need to talk much about how big of a deal Nolan Arenado is. And that's not to And those are the infielders, and that negates the outfielders, the Dexter Fowlers, the Carlos Gonzalez's, the Matt Hollidays, the Charlie Blackmon. There's so many memorable Rockies from a team's young history, but for those that might be curious and might be interested, if you actually know those names, and I don't know, a guy named Troy Tulowitzki was there for a bit too. I mean, I know I kind of skipped over those names, but I mean, there are some of the game's best that have played in Colorado. I mean, there are, it's a really, really interesting team when it comes to some histories, but it's also a really frustrating team. And that's what kind of part of it too. I think you kind of have to admit to your family members or whoever's asking you around the table that it's not easy being a Rockies fan. It's not easy taking it on the chin, and it's often frustrating, but at its base, at its core, I mean, it's more so a team that has such interesting potential. It's it has such interesting factors to it, has such interesting elements that other baseball teams don't have that add a lot more. So that kind of gives you a good answer. But if you're looking let's give you an answer more specifically to that question of why are you rooting for the Rockies right now? Well, I also answer Thomas Ashley's question here in the live chat. If you want to be part of the live chat, you can subscribe to Locked On Rockies on YouTube and be part of the show and know when we are live so you can ask your questions. But before we get to that, got to tell you about our friends at SimpliSafe. If you thought about securing your home with home security but have been putting it off, you'll want to listen up. Right now, Locked On Rockies listeners can order the #1 rated SimpliSafe home security system for 50% off. This is their biggest offer of the year. So if you're interested, of the year, of all 365, all the days of the year, it is the biggest time, the best time to get a SimpliSafe home security system. 50% off right now. You don't want to miss it. SimpliSafe was named the best home security system of 2022 by U.S. News and World Report, a third year in a row. In an emergency, 24/7 professional monitoring agents use Fast Protect technology exclusively from SimpliSafe to capture critical evidence and verify the threat is real so you can get priority police response. There you got the 24/7 professional monitoring service that we just mentioned. Costs less than $1 a day. That's less than half the price of ADT's traditional professionally installed system. And with the top-rated SimpliSafe app, you can stay in complete control of your system anytime, anywhere. Arm, disarm, unlock for a guest, access your cameras, or adjust system settings. Don't miss your chance to save big on the only security system recommended by the U.S. News World Report. Get 50% off any new SimpliSafe system at simplisafe.com/lockedonmlb. This is their biggest discount of the year, so don't wait. Don't miss out. Go to simplisafe.com/lockedonmlb. That's simplisafe.com/lockedonmlb. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. Thomas Ashley asks in the live chat, I heard somebody got the Rocks interested in Bellinger. Is there some juice to that? While we did a whole episode about the Rockies and how they should go after Bellinger. I'm sure they're interested, and I'm sure there is a little bit of juice there. If the Rockies aren't at least interested, if the Rockies aren't at least engaged in seeing and figuring out what is going on and how they can be in the conversation for Cody Bellinger, then it's a big misstep. There is a lot of risks, but if your question is, are they just interested in Bellinger? I think the answer is absolutely the Rockies are interested in Cody Bellinger. How much are they willing to pursue? How much is Bellinger willing to negotiate and work with the Rockies? How much interest does Bellinger have in the Rockies? We don't know, I don't think we'll know for a bit. And there's plenty of great suitors for him, but we do a whole thing, a whole explanation of why we think Cody Bellinger. That was actually our episode from Monday. If you want to go check it out there, Thomas. If you want more on that, we're continuing our conversation about Colorado Rockies topics you might be asked about at the holiday table, maybe here Thanksgiving, maybe over closer in the holidays here in December. So a little holiday themed, holiday fun pod for you all. So we talked about just kind of the base things to answer the question of why are you watching the Rockies? Why do you like the Rockies? But if someone's curious and they say, I want to know what about right now? I want to know why I should watch the Colorado Rockies. You're sitting there, you're waiting for your slice of pie, And someone says, why should I watch the Colorado Rockies in 2023? Well, the biggest storyline is, how will the Rockies get a healthy Kris Bryant? And what does a healthy Kris Bryant do for the Colorado Rockies? Missed season, high expectations. That's really one of the biggest storylines, on top of how much are the Rockies really going to let their young kids play. So not only can you tell people to focus on Kris Bryant and that whole thing, because that's something we haven't necessarily explored too much, and will continue over the offseason of looking into his career numbers and seeing how they might possibly be able to impact the Rockies, or what we can translate and what we saw in that tiny sample. So that's one thing. I mean, what can a healthy Kris Bryant do? Hopefully Kris Bryant is able to come into next season healthy and play over 100 games for the Rockies, because the Rockies need him to do that. On top of that, the Rockies have a ton of young, interesting prospects who, if they break out and burst out onto the scene and have solid seasons, the Rockies are going to be loaded with some young talent that will turn some heads. And that's headlined by Eleris Montero and Ezequiel Tovar. But sneakily still there also is Sean Bouchard and Michael Toglia. There are those four names you are going to have to tell people to get to know when they're at the dinner table and they're like, I've never heard of them. I mean, these are the new faces. These are the new pieces. These are who the Rockies are planning to turn to lead their team into the future. And that's why they went after someone like Kris Bryant and wants to help out those type of players. But that's a new core, and you're going to see a new face at shortstop next year for the Colorado Rockies. How will they handle most likely losing Jose Iglesias? I mean, we can't rule it out until Iglesias signs with another team, but most likely that his time in purple is over and the Rockies move on with their prospects. But now you can tell that's four people that you got your friends or your family member that needs to know. And those are new names that the whole league is going to be learning more about, and hopefully in a good way too, because if the league catches on to Montero, Tovar, Toglia, and Bouchard, that means they're doing something right. That means the Rockies are doing something right. And of course, the other things to do, if you want to tell some people, maybe your family member says, I kind of fell out of the Rockies, the trade, everything, and which is all totally understandable, but you might want to tell them it's time to appreciate Charlie Blackmon and Charlie Blackmon's contributions to the Rockies, as at this stage in the career, you're getting to that thing where, yes, it might be tough the on-field performance is tough, but you have to appreciate what he's done and what he's given to this team, and cherish the moments and the opportunities that you do get to watch, which is arguably, I would say, everyone's favorite Rocky at the moment. I would be pretty surprised to hear that if you were to be able to poll all of the Rockies fans right now, and if they were to say, who is your favorite player currently on the Colorado Rockies roster, I would be shocked if Charlie Blackmon isn't on the list. So again, it's how does Charlie Blackmon finish out his career and adapt to being the DH, the full-time DH, and as we would imagine, even less time for him in the outfield, something that he was hesitant to, but now as he goes into this season can probably make that his main focus. So when someone's saying, I don't know, there doesn't seem to be much, there's really are interesting storylines, but you just kind of have to dig deeper into those things, especially when your team's not winning, because above all, you might be followed up with, or someone might still hit you with the, hey, it doesn't matter. You can tell me all about this. You can tell me all about what that guy on Locked On Rockies is talking about, blah, blah, blah. But they're not winning. Exactly. That's a big part of it too. How will the Rockies handle the names that they have and these storylines that are interesting to watch? And how do they turn those storylines, turn those players, turn this situation into success? And where that comes from, I think it leads to you're not going to have a good answer for that, but you can point to interesting threads and possibilities that can make people more interested and get people back into the Rockies, even in a down year. Maybe that's not your goal, is to make people interested in the Rockies because you're still upset with some things. I get that, but there are plenty of things to actually pay attention to and look for at the Rockies. And if they are winning, then they all become that much more interesting. But if they aren't winning, then those are give the things people need, or the reasons to tune in. So I don't know. I keep just kind of playing that hypothetical conversation between you and your friend or family member or whoever you're talking to about the Rockies during this holiday season. And there's one more question that you might get at the this holiday season, or around the Thanksgiving dinner table, and that is Todd Helton a Hall of Famer? And we're gonna give you just a short little couple of things that you can pinpoint to how good Todd Helton is, and how good he was. But before we do that, I got to tell you about some of the people that help make this show possible, and that includes BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for your sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. Yes, that's all of them, folks. And you can even hop in and do the live betting during the games. Maybe you missed off on kickoff there at the World Cup and you want to jump in and get in on some of the action during the next match. Well, they have the live betting. They have all sorts of props, lines, odds, everything you need for your betting needs is at betonline.net. From football, basketball, soccer to esports, they've got it all at betonline.net. And they even got sports podcasts. For even more information, they're the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix at betonline.net. You can head to the website today. Like I said, that's betonline.net, or use your mobile device to learn more about BetOnline. BetOnline, where the game starts. Hello to you too, Furious MMO. Welcome back into the Locked On Rockies podcast. And folks, we're talking about answers, being prepared to answer Rockies-themed questions this holiday season. We're talking, if people asking you about your fandom, why you're a fan, who to root for. But this is going to be one that your baseball family members were definitely going to be talking about. This is always a topic of conversation around this time of the year. It's a topic of conversation that you've heard before. And it's a topic that, yes, we are going to dive more into and do another pod dedicated to this offseason, because it's prime time. And it's again, an important thing for Rockies fans to focus on, and that is Todd Helton getting to the Hall of Fame. Todd Helton is a Hall of Famer. Todd Helton was so good, folks. 61.8 WAR over his career, and that includes all those injury seasons, all those bad Rockies teams. Todd Helton was not only the face, but he has been someone that the Rockies have believed in. Someone that the Rockies have helped. I'd say in some times that have been troubling for him in his career. And he is someone that embodies your loyalty. There is Larry Walker getting in is wonderful and it absolutely deserving. And he is the first Rocky, and that is a big time. Yes, Larry Walker was a Rocky through and through. But this is Todd Helton. This is a man that spent 17 years playing for the Colorado Rockies, 17 years going through it with this team, the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. Todd Helton went through it all, and he was very consistent. Yes, the injuries at the end of the year impacted that consistency, but healthy Todd Helton was one of the best players, not only on the Rockies and in Rockies history, but one of the best players in baseball and one of the best players to ever step on the diamond. He is dynamic. He was great on offense. I know defense at first isn't that highly regarded of a trait, but he was an elite defensive first baseman. He was an elite baseball IQ. The guy was instrumental in any form of Rockies success. And let's just look at the numbers here, folks. A .316 batting average, scored over 1,400 runs, over 1,400 RBIs, an OBP of 414, slugging of 539, an OPS of 953, and an OPS plus of 133. 369 home runs. Oh, and just the double master, 592 doubles. That was a huge portion of his hits were doubles. I mean, he had 2,519 hits in his career. 592 of them were doubles. The double in the gap at Coors Field is money. It's cash. It's the free spot on the bingo card. That was such the exact thing you needed to have in your tool set as a hitter at Coors Field. And not only was Todd Helton able to do it, he did it in big times. Multiple times he gets MVP votes. He was a 5-time All-Star 5 times in a row. He just missed being Rookie of the Year. He should have been, he was a 4-time Silver Slugger. He was a Gold Glove 3 times. Folks, the resume is there. All you need to do to tell anybody that has any doubt about Todd Helton's ability or worthiness of the Hall of Fame, send him to this. Just send him to the baseball reference. I mean, it's on top of that, in his very limited time in the postseason, Todd Helton was effective for the Rockies. He struck out a lot, but in the World Series specifically, he batted .333, .412, .467, .878. And he wasn't as good in the other series, but get a couple RBIs, got on base. He is just a certain stud. He was impactful for the Rockies in the postseason, and I know he didn't have a lot of postseason, but still, there's plenty more arguments that are a lot better to use than the playoff stuff. You don't need to focus on that. You need to focus on the fact that this was a guy that performed at an elite level for the Rockies for a long time and was one of the best in the business. And especially when you look at the ballot this year, he's one of the best, stronger names for candidacy there. Folks, that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Furious MMO says Todd Helton is a no doubt Hall of Famer, and I agree with you. Thank you to Thomas Ashley and Furious MMO for joining the show today. You can be part of the show by subscribing to Locked On Rockies on YouTube and clicking that little bell so you know when we go live, and that's so you can pop into the live chat as well. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Go make Locked On Sports today your second listen of the day. Stay up to date with all things sports across all the leagues. And if you want to get more action about Colorado sports, well, you can find out more about the Broncos, Avalanche, and Nuggets with the Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, and Locked On Nuggets podcast. I'm Paul Holden. You can find me at Paul Holden33 on Twitter. And until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.